I see the northern fishing as like, you imagine like Yateley, right? You've got your 9 lakes or whatever, but put that into the north and then spread it out. You know, these anglers all have their own way of doing things, and it's nice to get into their heads and then see the 2 different ways that 2 different people have tackled the same water. I wasn't fishing effectively, so you can have all the time in the world. If you're not applying yourself and thinking about what you're doing, you might as well go home. 96% of the people on this lake are never going to catch that common, but the lads who do, and when they do catch it, that's the fish that they've got on their brain.
Out there in perpetuity now. That book is going to exist far beyond our time on this earth, isn't it? Yeah. So it's important it was right, and it's important.
It was important. It had to be right, and yeah, it is right. We've got there in the end, and if we would have rushed it, it wouldn't have been right.
Sam, thank you so much for letting us interrupt your session. Now I know it's kind of a significant moment for you, isn't it? Because we are approaching the culmination of what's been quite a long project for you with the Northern chapters. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so basically it's like a follow-on from the Forgotten chapters, obviously all Northern captures. So we've got 28 chapters, basically covering what I believe are to be the significant wars in the north and showcasing all these northern fish, because I don't really think they get, you know, they don't get the time, you know, they don't get the, you know, showcase as much as some of the southern fish, and there's some wicked fish up here.
No,
so
I mean, undoubtedly we're all guilty. You know, I've been in the sort of media game in carp fishing for a long time, and we're all guilty of that. I've not really. Do you think there's an element though that with the north lads have always been a bit more guarded?
Oh, definitely. You know, because I think it seems in the north, like the lakes are sort of, there'll be like one big fish typically. Like, you know, down south, you know, you could have like fucking, you know, 5 or 6 40s in a lake. Up our end, there's not that many 40s at all. You might have like 1 in a lake, and they are a bit guarded because obviously you don't want more traffic on there. So it is a bit more secretive.
Have you felt like that yourself at times?
I have. When I fished on the deep hole, definitely on there, because that fish, that leather, meant so much to me, and I wanted to catch it that I didn't even tell anyone who was going on there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't want any. There's only 5 swims on there, and yeah, I didn't tell anyone was going on there, because obviously, you know, the more people go on there, the less chance you've got of catching it, sort of thing. So.
And is it fair to say, you know, without straying too far from the book, because we're going to come back to that, is it fair to say that it's just down to scarcity of big uns? Like, that's why there's a bit more of a protective.
I'd say so, yeah, because yeah, there's not that many of them. So people, yeah, so I think people are a bit more guarded, because once that fish comes out, that's it. It's game over till the next year. Do you know what I mean? They don't come out that much typically.
And I guess we're kind of, the book probably has a bit of a narrative that hasn't been put out there too much about the north, and that is that you're actually showcasing the very best of the north. It's not this idea that let's break the violins out, there's no big uns. It's actually look at how great these fish are.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
So what's been the process? What's been the process like? What's it been like for you to put it together? Because this has been your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much everything I've thought about for the last 3 years, sort of thing. It's been difficult because obviously I felt like there's quite a lot of weight on my shoulders in terms of getting it right. I think everybody's going to have their own interpretation of what they believe to be, you know, the most significant northern captures, and that's going to be personal to everyone. So if you grew up in Cheshire, you know, it might be slightly different to, I grew up in Salford, so, you know, my version of the book might be a little bit different to theirs, and everyone's going to have their, you know, own version of what the most significant fish are. But yeah, I believe I've done it justice.
So how do you pick your way through that in that case? Because you've used the word significant. Was that a key thing for you, that you were looking at the carp that were available and thinking which ones mattered the most, or could it have been a different criteria? How did you actually go about choosing what to put in?
The ones that I'd go for, I think, do you know what I mean? The ones that that are good lookers, mainly pretty tricky to catch. Yeah, that's how I sort of selected them. You know.
Yeah, and what it means to the lads who have targeted them, presumably.
Yeah,
like, yeah. And in terms of the chapters themselves, Sam, how important is the story? Like, how much were you able to sit down with someone and work out whether they had a good story?
Well, this is the thing. So, obviously, you know, these loads of people have caught the fish. There's loads of people we could have chosen for each chapter. But because I've fished myself quite a few of the waters, like, you know, obviously when you go in the water, typically there is only, you know, that one big fish that you're going for. When you go on, you want to learn, you know, its habits and stuff, and then you speak to people about, you know, what they've caught it on, etc. You learn the habits of the fish, and then you hear the stories. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, Northern Chapters is a storybook, and I believe we've chose the best stories for each fish. Yeah.
Does that mean, Sam, that it's not necessarily a book about big carp?
It is a book about big carp, but it's also a storybook. And I think we've chose the best stories. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's a million people that could have done Mr. Angler, the capture of Mr. Angler, and it's not necessarily, you know, I've not chose the people who've caught it at the biggest weights. It's the person who's got the best story, and I've chose Tudge to do that because, yeah, his story was mad, man. Like, he sort of featured around Ray, Frogger used to fish on there. You know, when I was cutting my teeth on there, I sort of learned off Ray. Unfortunately, he passed of cancer, and then sort of just before when he knew he was going to go, he sort of said to Tudge, you know, like, you know, they grew up on there together and watched these fish from the 80s pack on weight. He said to Tudge, like, promise me that you'll come back and catch this fish at like a weight that we never thought of. Do you know what I mean? And like, that was a big fucking thing for Tudge to have on his mind. You know what I mean? And he didn't tell a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, and he ended up river fishing in the end. I don't know whether it was because of that or, you know, but then he went back on there. Do you know what I mean? And he got it, and oh man, yeah, it's a really.
And how enjoyable have you found the process of listening to people's stories and getting the best out of the chapters?
Yeah, really enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody's written them well. I've not had to go back in and say, oh, can you mention that? Like, you know, everything that's everybody submitted, the story's been there. They've told it really well. You know, written it really well. So I've not had to.
And it feels like you're the right guy, but I guess you probably have thought, you must have at times questioned whether you were the right person.
100%, mate. 100% all the time. Like, you know, at one point I was thinking, not at one point, like throughout the whole thing, thinking, what, you know, why am I even doing this sort of thing? But then all I do is I read the book again and go, the book's sick. Do you know what I mean? Like that, you know, the chapters are sick. So I think we've chose the best chapters.
Tell us how you're feeling at the moment and where you are with it right now.
So we're at the print proof stage. It's all been printed out. We're just checking at the final check over, and then once we've done that, we can go to print, and then hopefully 6 weeks should be out just before Christmas.
So what in terms of the way you're feeling about the whole project now? The hard work's kind of it's done. The hard work's done, right?
Yeah, the hard work's done. Yeah, the book's finished. Yeah, and you know what? I wouldn't change anything about it now. Do you know what I mean?
And what about friends and family, who presumably didn't expect you to be publishing a book like a couple of years?
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, I think I've burnt all the heads out a little bit. It's all gone on about. You know what I mean? But for the past 3 years, but everyone's supported me. Do you know what I mean?
And we must mention Gaz as well, because obviously he's been the guy closest to you on this project, I guess.
Yeah, Gaz has been wicked,
what influence has Gaz had on the project?
Gaz has been wicked, mate, and you know, one of the main things, he's just like constantly reassured me, which, you know, when you're doubting yourself, thinking, you know, is it up to standards and stuff, and he's like, you know, he's great, you know, chill out, you know what I mean, like, it's going to be wicked. Like, he's been really supportive all the way through.
So like his experience,
yeah. And I just think, you know, like, Gaz wouldn't be involved if he didn't think I don't think he would be involved if he didn't think it was up to par, you know what I mean?
And why is it important that there is a book like this, do you think?
Just to get these northern fish out there. I think there's so many good stories. Like, mate, the North can handle another 10 of these books. Do you know what I mean? This is just a very small little insight into the northern scene. There could be another 10 of them. There's so many good stories out there. There were so many stories that we could have picked. Do you know what I mean? So,
and because of your location, is it Is there a sort of slant towards the northwest, or have you covered all across?
Yeah, it's definitely northwest bias, you know what I mean? But obviously, it would have been nice to have a bit more, you know, northeast in there. But like, you know, people like Richard Skidmore, he's covered like the Yorkshire's three first 40s, which was really interesting. We've got Baby Baz in there from Tyrone. Tom Clark's covered that. It's a wicked chapter. So we've got a bit over there, but yeah, it's pretty northwest centric.
But like you say, there's a hell of a lot of scope to explore those even more stories than you have done.
Yeah, 100%, and it'd be good if someone from over that way would do another one. Do you know what I mean? And then you know, make it more northeast bias like.
Do you have a favourite chapter, Sam?
Yeah, Jim Lomas's. So Jim Lomas's chapter was first published in Carp World in 2010. But that's like it's one of my favourite fishing stories I've ever read, and I just thought, you know, it deserves to be reprinted in this book because it's, you know, it's so significant for me. Like, I read that chapter and I'd sort of like give up on the deer park at one point, you know what I mean? Read that and it was a bit of a catalyst to get back on there. Do you know what I mean? It fired me up again, and for that reason, yeah, it's me, and the fact of like it's really well written, you know, it's. So yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Jim no longer with us as well. So otherwise, I guess you'd have had a reworked version maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I don't even think we would have to, mate. It is what it is. It's wicked.
Yeah. And I didn't even know this till we started chatting before that Tim Paisley is kind of, he's done the forward, right? Is that?
Yeah, Tim Paisley and Frank. Yeah.
Oh, and Frank as well.
Yeah.
Which, you know, really two of the most iconic northwest anglers you could pick.
Yeah.
Has it been nice to have their influence kind of at least touch the book?
100%. Yeah, it's an honour to have them to agree to do it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I want to explore a little bit about your own fishing up there, and the fascinating bits to me, Sam, are just the Manchester Park Lake, right? There's so little been done about it over the years. And yet it's so significant to anglers in your neck of the woods, isn't it?
Yeah.
Could you sum up what it's like on there? Because for the rest of us, it sounds mad, right?
So the Manchester Park Lake, that's where I cut my teeth. I remember like, we grew up sort of fishing down in Devon quite a lot, me and my cousin and my dad. And then sort of when my cousin Mark, he'd started on there in like sort of 98, 99. Obviously, I was, you know, doing bits down Devon. I wasn't like fishing for big carp or anything. And he was like, mate, you've got to get on here. Like, look at these fish. And then he showed me this fish, like a fish called Four Moons. And it's still my favourite picture to this day. I just look back at that picture and think like, that just reminds me of, you know, when we first started on there. So I was like, yeah. I, you know, went along with our Mark, and that was like, you know, just drive it straight in at the deep end. And then yeah, did the first night on there, and he sort of like said to me, he helped me with my rods and all that, and he was saying, right, so he told me where to put my left-hand rod. He said, right, if you get a take on this rod, it's going to be a carp. Got screaming like 3 in the morning. It's like, shit, take it out. Got it in. It was a tench. So I like woke him up to show him, why are you fucking waking me up for the tench for? You know what I mean? But yeah, that was my first taste. And then started on there in the year 2000. And then I think it was May the 21st. I had my first one out of there. And then it was just the adrenaline of getting the take, and then like just seeing this big fish come into the net and just think, fuck, he was bigger than anything I'd ever had, you know what I mean? And then that was the start of it then. I was just like, right, well, you know, I don't want to go onto easier waters, like, you know, it was hard to, you know, it was hard to catch, you know, put quite a lot of nights in, but once I'd done it, I was like, right, well, this is me now. And then we started learning about all the other fish in there. There was like, you know, Mr. Angler that was doing sort of, I think it was like low 30s at the time, which was a massive fish at the time, you know, for the Northwest. There was Peter that was getting up there, Four Moons, Walnut, learned all these fish, and then I just thought, you know what, I want to catch them all. And I think we did the first 5 years on there, and then there was just one that I'd still not caught, but like, you know, that's why I've always dipped back into there. Like, what
were the challenges, Sam, for fishing on that lake?
Challenges, like we didn't, it seems mad now, but we didn't used to use marker rods or anything like that. We just used to like, it came from like watching Tudge and Frogger. They both had like completely different styles of angling. Like Tudge would get there, he'd have a mooch round, you know, looking in the snags, catch a few, you know, get them on feeding on.